Okay, so got another video on communication for you guys. Easy way to improve your communication skills. I've been doing quite a few videos on communication skills recently. It's obviously not as exciting as something like, top 5 ways to answer these interview questions or something like that, where I'm going through like answers. But I think it is important to cover communication. A couple of reasons for that. Number one, I think communication is something you guys need more help with than I initially thought. I thought it was all just how to answer interview questions, that sort of thing. But it turns out communication is a strong aspect that people are needing help with. So that's why I want to cover it. And number two, I think it's important to have communication as your foundation. So when I'm sort of going through interview coaching with my students and getting them ready for their degree apprenticeship interviews, the first thing I want us to get nailed is your delivery. So how you're speaking, your communication, how you're coming across, your tone, your pacing, your confidence, your body language, and all that sort of thing. That's what I want to work on first, okay, so that's will be our basis. And then once we've got that covered, we'll then move on to the interview answers, okay, so what do you say, how do you structure it, what the kind of things do you say to stand out, what do you not say, that's what we'll cover afterwards. I think it's important to have this foundation first, which is why it's like, I think it's important for me to teach you guys as well, communication first, and then we can move on to answers. And there's another reason for it as well, is it just takes a bit longer to improve communication. Yeah, because communication's more of like a general lifelong skill, so to go and improve it, especially since a lot of the stuff to do with communication is from like 16, 17, 18 years of social conditioning. So if you don't have the best communication skills right now, it's because the past 16 years of your life has gone, like, you've been conditioned by society essentially to have those not the best in the world communication skills. So it takes a bit longer to improve those communication skills as opposed to like learning an interview answer. Like learning an interview answer, it's just like you need to spend however many hours learning it, and then you've learned it and then you're good. This needs a bit more time, okay? And a lot of you, I know in finance, some people are having assessment centres already, but most of the people watching a lot of your assessment centres, your interviews and that sort of thing are going to be in January, February and March, okay? So if I can get this started now and start improving your communication skills now, that means by the time we get to sort of January or February, like you've had like a month or two to improve those communication skills, as opposed to if I like drop this video like the evening before your actual final interview, it probably wouldn't do anything. Okay, so just a couple of reasons there why I want to focus on communication. We'll just get into the video in a second, but just to introduce myself. My name's Owen. I'm a degree apprentice. I help people get degree apprenticeships in the engineering, technology and finance industries. And I've helped my students last year get into companies like Amazon, JLR, KPMG, Rolls-Royce, Deutsche Bank, HSBC, and already this year I've helped some of my students who are part of my coaching program. I've already got them into places like Deloitte. Okay, so let's get into the video then. So this is a super easy way to improve your communication skills, because I know a lot of people struggle with this. And let me just explain how this one works. So back in the day, I used to watch this YouTuber called Optimus. Okay, let me just make that a bit smaller, okay? I used to watch this YouTuber guy called Optimus. He's like a commentary YouTuber. So I don't even know if commentary YouTubers is still a thing, but basically commentary YouTubers are YouTubers who, they'd basically comment on topics that were going on the internet, and in the background they'd like have a video game playing. So it's like, if some of you know what I'm talking about with commentary YouTubers, sometimes it'll be like they'll play Sim City in the background. Sometimes they'll play that game where the guy's holding the knife and he's like running with it. It might be called like Mirror's Edge, and he's running around doing parkour and jumping and stuff. If you don't know what commentary YouTubers are, you probably got no idea what I'm talking about. But essentially, it's just basically, but before TikTok was the thing, because right now everything's just like, if there's a bit of news story, someone will whack on some AI. On the bottom, they'll put the like Minecraft parkour, or they'll put the cleaning the rug, or they'll put the, what's it called? What's that jump game called? They'll put Subway Surfers, or they'll put the GTA car going up and down. That's what it is nowadays. If there's any news, it goes on into a TikTok, into a YouTube short. It's a 60-second thing. It's AI generated, right? But back in the day, before all of that was a thing, basically it would be commentary YouTube. That's where like you'd find out about a lot of topics. I'm saying back in the day like I'm like 35 years old. Like, come on. But do you know what I mean? Back in the day, like 4, 5, 6 years ago, basically it would be a YouTuber who would have some video game footage that he'd play in the background, and then he'd talk about a topic for 10, 12 minutes, 14, 16, 20 minutes, okay? Basically, before, like, short form became a thing, like, people had the attention span to essentially watch a 10, 12-minute video, okay? And this guy called Optimus, I used to watch him a lot, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, that was when I was watching him a lot. And he had a certain speech pattern when he was speaking, okay? So when he'd be speaking, he'd go through topics. He would start to say at the end of sentences, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Do you get what I'm saying? Like after a surprisingly large number of sentences, like a lot of his sentences, he would finish that. So maybe we'd talk about some like sort of news story that had happened, like I don't know, some random thing about the Momo challenge, right? And then at the end of the sentence, he'd say like, "Do you know what I'm saying?" And what happened was, after like watching a lot of his videos, I ended up picking that up. So I think there was probably like potentially 1 or 2 years of my life where after like a lot of sentences, I just add like, "Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying?" Like, it's not, and it wouldn't be on purpose. It's not like, oh yeah, this YouTuber guy who I like called Optimus, he does it, so I did it. No, it was an unconscious thing. It was an unconscious thing, and I started doing that and adding that on to the end of my sentences. So I'm trying to think of an example. Yes, I was doing the homework. It's really difficult. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so I'm looking at the thing, and the brief doesn't even make sense. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's like that kind of thing. I just end up saying, "Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm trying to say?" After like literally every single sentence. Okay, and it was basically picked up from watching this guy on YouTube. Okay, and it was from this that I learned we pick up language from the people we're around and the people we associate with. Okay, so and there'll be some sort of biological evolutionary reason behind that. Like if you're in a tribe with the other cavemen and all that sort of thing, if they're doing a certain thing, you want to pick it up so you fit in. If you didn't pick it up, right? If you didn't pick up a certain social thing or a language cue, then that would sort of signal you're outside of the group. You could get kicked out of the group, and then in which case, if you're not in the tribe, you're not getting their resources, you're on your own, you might end up dying. Okay, so there's probably like some sort of biological evolutionary reason there. But essentially, that's what it was. I was watching Optimus, and I picked up that sort of speech pattern there. Okay, I've had it in similar instances where there was this one like year. It must have been, I want to say like 2018 or 2019, when I went to like this music summer school thing for like 5 days. And this is actually a funny story. It's kind of dumb, but like essentially it was just like 5 day summer school, and basically I met a whole bunch of the people there, and they'd say a lot of slang things like "yo," "fam," "bro," and all this sort of stuff, right? Which I hadn't really like talked like that before. But literally after that 5 days of being in the school, that's how my language then became. It became very slang sort of orientated because of those 5 days of the summer school with the other people who were speaking like that. I sort of picked up those speech habits, and then those probably stayed for like 2 or 3 years, to be honest, right? So this is something to think about, okay? Because what I've realised is, let me just get on to the next part of the story. So essentially this was like 2019, 2020 sort of times. I was watching these kind of people, and that's where I was picking up these things, okay? So like the slang, you know what I mean, or all this sort of stuff, and then that's how I was speaking, okay? And then I was just thinking about this topic like yesterday. This came into my mind yesterday, just to remember all this stuff. I don't speak like this anymore. I don't speak like this Optimus way of speaking or that slang way of speaking really that much anymore. I now speak differently, and I think it's because of the people I'm watching on YouTube, because it's like you're going to pick up things from people you associate with, people you're around, but then also like YouTube like simulates you being around people. Like your brain can't tell, oh, this is on YouTube, you're not actually with them, they're not in your tribe, you're not a caveman. It's all wired there psychologically that whatever you're hearing, you're going to start picking things up. Okay, so for example, I look at some of the people I watch right now, and I can tell that I've been picking things up about them. Okay, so for example, like Jordan Peterson, he has like a podcast which I like watching. Also, he's got like a book which I've read as well, right? I've noticed that by watching him, my speech has much improved, because when he's doing these 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour long podcasts, he's a very good communicator. He's very intelligent as well. I am picking up more and more of his ways of speaking, in the sense that when he speaks, he's very calculated. He thinks about what he's saying. He takes his time and speaks slowly if needed. He pauses to think in the middle of his sentences if he's unsure of what he needs to say. He doesn't really do any ums and ahs and that sort of thing. That's something I've picked up from watching his stuff. Okay, for example, I used to like and ah all the time, but it's like now you might notice in my videos, sometimes when I'm trying to articulate something, I pause, take a moment, and I just take a moment to get there. That's like a character trait or a mannerism that Jordan Peterson does in his things, when he's trying to formulate a point, articulate an idea in his head, he's pausing, thinking about it, and then going in. And that's like a mannerism I picked up from watching him. Okay, and that mannerism has made that my communication is now clearer, because rather than just like stumbling over words and speaking really quickly, I'm now speaking more slowly, more articulate, more clear, less ums and ers and all this sort of thing. Okay. If I give you another example, PBD. There's this guy called Patrick Bet-David. Again, I also have his book here. He's this guy in the middle here, and he does like podcasts on like news and all this sort of stuff. Okay, so basically Jordan Peterson and PBD, I've been watching them a lot over probably the past 18 months sort of thing, and I've noticed another thing is from PBD, so that this guy here, I've picked up like a way of telling stories. So when he in his podcast, and he also does like other YouTube videos as well, he will like tell stories about stuff that's happened to him, right? And he has a certain way of telling these stories. I won't go into it because I don't think I could explain it properly, and it would just take too long. It's not really relevant. The point I'm trying to say is he has a certain way of explaining stories when he's telling them. And I've noticed that when I tell stories now about like, oh, this thing happened to me, I retell it in the same sort of style that he does. Okay? And that's not something that, again, it's not something I do consciously. I just do it. Okay? Because I've picked it up from watching a lot of his stuff. Okay? Final example I'll give you is this guy called William Brown. About a month ago, I was watching a whole bunch of his stuff, and over the past month, I've watched a good amount of his stuff. Okay, he's like a YouTuber, and I've picked up one of his mannerisms. I noticed it yesterday. This is why I had the idea for this video, was because I was filming a video for someone. They'd asked me a question, so I was filming them like one of these videos just to like personally help them with their situation. And I noticed that after a lot of sentences, I was saying okay. Okay, so I want you to do this because okay, and then basically the next thing you need to do is probably have a look at this one. Okay, I just kept saying okay after a lot of sentences. I'm not sure if I'm doing it much in this video or not, but this is something that William Brown does. So William Brown, in a lot of his videos, his speech and his mannerisms, he has a mannerism where after his sentences he'll go okay, okay, okay. And I've picked that up. Okay, and that just shows how watching people gives you these speech patterns, these mannerisms that are going to end up coming into your speech. And just from thinking about this, I think this is definitely a topic I want to look into more because it's just fascinating, really. But I think maybe there's like a 1 month delay because I think I started watching William Brown. Maybe it's a bit more than a month actually. I started watching him about 5 weeks ago. Okay, maybe like 34, 35, 36, maybe 40 days ago. Okay, and I've noticed now that probably for the past week or so, I've been like, you just doing this okay thing and saying what he's saying. So I think potentially there's a month delay on if you watch a lot of stuff, you're going to start picking up their speech patterns. Okay, so I just wanted to film this video just to tell you about that. So how is this all relevant to your interviews, your applications, your communication skills and all that sort of thing? Well, basically, the point that I'm trying to make with this video, okay, and I know this isn't going to be the most viewed video ever because it's like a very niche topic talking about a very specific thing, but for those of you who are still watching, just have a think about who you're consuming content from. Okay, are you consuming content from some random TikToker, Instagram, brain rot, sidemen, YouTube people? Or are you like listening to full-length podcasts? Okay, and I'm not telling you, oh, okay, you go enough, you can't watch whatever you want. Like, sure, go watch whatever you want. But it's just something just to bear in mind, because the people you're listening to the most online, you are going to start to speak like them. Okay, involuntarily. Okay, if there's a certain person you watch a lot, okay, again, the online landscape has kind of changed in the past couple of years due to short-form content. So the way it used to work is long-form content, you'd watch YouTube, okay, you'd have some YouTubers, and you just consistently watch those YouTubers. Now it's a bit more of like, you just go on your TikTok Shorts feed and some random people will come up. So this is potentially less of an issue or a thing now in the modern world, because I think with shorts, you're less likely to watch the same person over and over and over again. But if you are a big person on like YouTube, for example, you do like watching the same sort of people on YouTube, just have a think about who you're watching, because this is sort of a blessing and a curse, this like mannerism thing here, because it's like, if you're watching someone who's just brain rot and their communication isn't very good, it's going to rub off on you and your communication's not going to be very good, okay? But then there's the flip side, and there's the positive to that, which is if you're listening to good communicators who have good mannerisms, and also a lack of bad mannerisms, that's another part of it, a lack of bad mannerisms, then you're just going to subconsciously start improving your communications. This is the most passive thing ever. Okay, this is why it's so easy, because you don't actually have to do anything. Like, there's certain techniques for things where you have to go and do something, you have to go practice, you have to do this, right? This one you don't even need to practice. This one is just, in your life at the moment, you probably consume content. If you just change the content you're consuming, you can just passively improve your communication, okay? So just something to think about, okay? Do I want to listen to a bunch of brain rot people who their communication isn't very good, because you're going to end up with poorer communication? Or do you want to start listening to people with good communication? Okay? And I think a good place that will be useful will be the full-length podcasts, because a lot of these full-length podcasters have good communication skills. So PBD, Patrick Bet-David, Jordan Peterson, Chris Williamson, Andrew Huberman, these kind of people, good communication skills. Potentially the guy who is, what's it called, Day in the Life of a CEO, or what's that guy called? Hold on, let me search that. Day in the Life of a CEO. Is that his name? What's that guy called? CEO podcast. Alex Hormozy. Oh, The Diary of a CEO. That's what it's called. Yeah, potentially. Oh, and there's Chris Williamson as well. So it's like, those are the kind of people maybe to watch. Okay, so like Jordan Peterson, PBD, Diary of a CEO, Chris Williamson. I'm not saying necessarily go and watch these people just off the bat, because you won't care about that content. What I'm saying is, whatever you're interested in, the kind of content you watch, whether it's like, I don't know, whatever it is, go and find people in your industry who have good communication skills. For example, Chris Williamson does a lot of stuff on like sort of fitness and health, okay? So if you are interested in fitness and health, either you can go and watch a bunch of random YouTubers who have poor communication skills and they're just doing some random videos and you're going to start picking up bad speech patterns, or you can go listen to Chris Williamson who has good speech patterns and you're going to start picking that up. Okay, so I'm not saying go and start watching Jordan Peterson, for example, because you probably don't care. He does a lot of topics on like culture, religion, society, and all this sort of thing. You probably don't care, right? But just go look at your industry. Okay, what am I interested in anyway? Is it fitness, right? Then go and watch people in the fitness industry who do have good communication. That's probably the best way to do it. Yeah, because you're gonna pick up good patterns, and also as well you're gonna not pick up bad patterns. Like some of those bad patterns that I mentioned before, like a lot of the slang, me saying, "Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm trying to say?" You know what I'm saying? Yeah, those are some bad mannerisms that I was picking up from people. Okay, but now that I'm watching content from good communicators, I'm not picking up those things. Okay, so a bit of a different video for you today, but hopefully it's just a bit of food for thought, something to go think about. Yeah, I'm not sort of recommending that you have to go and suddenly unsubscribe from everyone and go and watch like PBD and Jordan Peterson and stuff. But I'm just saying, just something to think about. Okay, if it's possible to improve the people you're watching on YouTube in terms of like get better people who have better communication, then go do it, because it'll make your own communication better. Okay, so I hope you found this video useful, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.